For 18 long months, Xiaomei carried a growing belly, yet no child was born. Day by day, her stomach expanded like an overinflated balloon, defying all logic and medical understanding. Her husband, Qiang, grew so anxious that his hair turned white. After all, they had not been intimate for years. So how could his 40-year-old wife be pregnant again? The villagers were divided. Some whispered that she carried twins, a miraculous pregnancy. Others feared the worst, believing it to be an incurable disease. As speculation spread, a photographer heard about Xiaomei's condition and traveled to the remote village to see the truth for himself. Upon arriving, he was met with a heartbreaking sight. Xiaomei and her family lived in a fragile mud house, barely standing. She lay in a hammock, her frail body nearly unrecognizable. The photographer rushed to help her up, but she was as thin as a skeleton. Her skin clung to her bones, and yet her stomach swelled abnormally large, resembling a giant beer keg. The massive belly left her bedridden. She was too weak to stand, her limbs as fragile as withered branches. Her daughter stayed by her side to care for her while Qiang worked deep in the forest, trying to provide for his struggling family. Though Xiaomei weighed a mere 80 kilograms, the sheer size of her belly made movement nearly impossible. It was so large, so unnaturally stretched, that it seemed as if it could burst at any moment. Whatever was inside had drained every last ounce of nutrition from her body, leaving behind a hollow shell of the woman she once was. Her suffering had begun 2 decades earlier. At 20, she married Qiang, a man much older than herself, and lived a quiet, uneventful life. Together, they had 3 daughters, but in the eyes of their traditional village, this was a failure. She had never given birth to a son. The pressure weighed heavily on the family, and as the years passed, Qiang grew desperate. 18 months ago, Xiaomei began experiencing morning sickness, and soon after, her belly started to swell. At first, she believed it was a miracle, a long-awaited blessing from the heavens. But Qiang was furious. He was convinced that he had been betrayed. After all, he and his wife had not conceived a child in years. 10 months passed, but no baby arrived. With no access to medical care or prenatal checkups, Xiaomei had no choice but to trust her husband's reassurances. He convinced her that the child was simply overdue. But as more time went by, the truth became harder to ignore. Was Xiaomei truly pregnant? Or was something far more mysterious and terrifying growing inside her?